I guess start from the beginning. Your wife's telling me you flew from Spain. You were intending to go to Bangkok. What happened?
So actually, I flew from here to Spain for a multi-institutional meeting and then giving a seminar at the University of Zaragoza. Then I flew to Bangkok, gave a plenary talk at a conference, and I was on my way back. I was supposed to transition in Doha, had a layover of about 3 hours, and well, I did not know what had happened. I went to the gate. I was waiting for my plane along with everyone else. Well, not quite everyone, about 50 other people. We honestly had no idea what happened. And then, as time got close and nobody was starting a line or anything, there were no announcements. We asked what had happened, and they told us that uh, airspace was closed. And we were like, why? And then they explained the situation to us. So it was quite unexpected, um, but that part of the trip was personally the most disturbing to me because within the Doha airport, um, I actually saw missiles being fired for defensive purposes. Um, Seeing a missile fired on television is one thing. Seeing it in person is a very, very different situation. It's unnerving. And then I saw, you probably at one point in the early part of the war saw this one news clip of a barrage of missiles being fired and exploding over Doha. I saw that. I saw all those defensive missiles being shot up and missiles exploding over my head. And so, yeah, it was very disturbing. Um, and then we had to stay in the airport um, until the airport was, there was a missile that hit not far from the airport. So the authorities then decided that it was better to move us out, and we were evacuated to hotels. Actually, we were evacuated to a convention center, and then we were assigned to hotels. And despite the attempt at being organized, there were just too many people, just far too many people. And so it took a long time to get through that.
I mean, you're talking about you seeing missiles overhead, striking not far from the airport. What was going through your mind? I can't imagine, the emotions going through at that point.
I honestly thought that there was a fair chance that I wasn't going to come home. In fact, I'm scheduled to receive a national award in a couple of weeks in Atlanta. And I even contacted the organizers and I said, if something happens to me, can someone from my family pick it up, accept it on my behalf? Because I honestly didn't know if I was coming home. And once we got into the hotels, then I would get these numerous alerts on my phone indicating that the threat level was elevated, which meant missile and drone attacks on Doha. At first it was the attacks were focused on the airbase there, then the city became fair game. And that's when it became really iffy because I was in a hotel on the 13th floor of all floors. And, I would just look out and, keep looking for the missiles. Where are they? Where are the drones? I was fortunate, but some people that I met along the way, they were hit by shrapnel from missiles. So, yeah, it was dire. It was tense.
When you got your sort of flight plan of you were, going over there, did you ever think that you might end up right on the fringe of an international war?
Not at all. That was the farthest thing from my mind. It wasn't ever even near being on my radar screen. Um, And I honestly, while I was there, I just kept asking, why is this happening? Why? What's the motivation for all of this? And I just couldn't, despite reading many articles because I had the time to, and watching the news on television, I just never got a real good answer to that question. And I still don't. I don't know why this is happening.
So you were stuck in Doha. Tell me how long you were there, and how did you sort of get on a plane out?
So I was there for 7 days. Um, and I had a lot of people, including my students, my colleagues, my son's friends, sending me well wishes almost every day. And I'm very, very grateful for that because it kept my spirits up. Um, then on, and I will say that despite their intentions, the embassy really didn't do a whole lot for us, other than saying we should get out of Doha, but not telling us how to. And airspace was still closed, so we couldn't fly out. But it did open on Saturday evening for some flights, and then I was informed at about 9 o'clock on Saturday night that I might be flying out to Amsterdam. And so I went to check at 1 a.m. and they said my name wasn't on the list. And the funny part about this was that the Qatar Airways official said, you should still go to the airport. If you don't fly out, we'll just take you to another hotel. So I thought, okay, I am packed, I'm ready to go, sure. They snuck us out at 3 a.m., took us to the airport, and I should point out, by the way, that when we were going to the hotel, try to imagine about 100 to 150 buses lined up, just grabbing people and taking them. This wasn't as much. We had about 4 or 5 buses. And we wound up going to the airport. On the way there, I found my name was on the list. They had me down as Richard John, not Richard Spontak. So I was on their list to go to Amsterdam. And then they told me at the ticketing counter, the flight is full and I would have to be standby. I was like, I can't do that. I said, send me to another city in Europe. And so they said, would you be willing to go to London? Yes, absolutely. Just get me out of Doha. And yeah, they got me on the flight to London. We took off at about 9 o'clock, which was typically before the air attacks commenced. They usually started at around 10 a.m. and went several times a day on occasion. Once I got, I told my family, don't count your chickens yet, because I knew that originally, the first day of the war, flights that had taken off from Doha were recalled. And so passengers on those flights didn't know what was happening. They only knew that their plane was turning around. I said, let's wait until I get into the Mediterranean. So we didn't fly over Iraq, which is the normal way of flying. Instead, we flew down to Riyadh. We flew across Saudi Arabia. We flew up through Cairo and then across the Mediterranean. And then I made it to London.
So you talk about, you're hearing about flights that had been turned around. At what point did you finally think to yourself, like, okay, I think I might be sort of in the clear here?
It was always just a small step at a time. I was not looking for some grandiose sign that I was going. It was always, am I on the trajectory to go? And so the first sign was, getting that call to be ready to go Sunday morning. Then finding my name on that list. These were all positives. And then finding that I was going to go to London and actually having a ticket in my hand. That was such an important step because I knew that at least I was scheduled to go. Getting on the plane, big plus, because at any moment they could have closed the airspace again, in which case the flights would all be scrubbed. Once I got on the plane, I just kept watching the map. I was like, as soon as I hit the Mediterranean, I know I'm safe. And that was the moment that finally dawned on me. And I think at that moment, I let out a tremendous sigh of relief. It was almost like holding my breath the whole time.
I know it just happened, but what was your emotion when you just saw your wife for the first time in however many days?
Absolute elation. I missed her so very much. We've been talking every day, if not more than once a day, and texting constantly. She was my rock, and I would never have made it without her and my two children. With their support really sustained me.
All right. Anything else you'd like to add that I didn't ask? I guess what does this sort of whole experience? What kind of feelings does this leave you with? What's the sort of take home?
I'm numb. I'm very numb right now. I will, still go through my responsibilities to my students. I'll still, do what I need to do, what's expected of me. But I think I'm going to be going through the motions. I don't think I'll be quite all in as I normally am. There's definitely a part of me that feels different. Having gone through this, especially, I'm a bit older now. I think if I had done this earlier, it wouldn't have disturbed me as much. But, I've got a wonderful family. I did not want to leave behind like this. Especially something that was beyond my control and something that, quite frankly, did not make sense to me. And so I just thought, this was not the way I wanted to leave. And I think that's the part of me now that feels numb. And it's going to take me a little while. I've forewarned my family and some of my colleagues. I'm going to need a little time to get past this. It's definitely not something that is going to be gone in a day or two.